What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode. It's Obsessed Turf, and I am sharing all of my cool season lawn activities that I am doing this year. In the past, I've just done the traditional stuff, but this year I have really dialed things in. I started last year with really trying to tweak and supplement my program, but this year it's all out. And it's more of a discovery phase for me as far as what works, what doesn't work, and really trying to figure out what are some of the things that have created challenges for me in my lawn so that I can identify those issues and have a custom tailored program for my lawn. If you have a warm season lawn, some of this might apply, but also my soil type is more of a clay loam soil type. So I'm heavier on the clay. So if you have a sandy soil, these things may apply, but they may apply differently. So all that being said, the first question that you should probably ask yourself is, do you need a pre-emergent? And I can tell you, of nearly the 30 years that I have taken care of a lawn, I've rarely used pre-emergent. The most important thing to do is have a healthy lawn. And so for the average person, I would say that you want to focus on a healthy lawn before you're even really worried about preventing weeds. Post-emergent is going to be actually a more viable option for the average homeowner, especially if you're dealing with a bunch of weeds and you have a weak lawn. Work on strengthening your lawn first, because what I have learned over the years is that a strong, thick, thriving lawn will help really keep the weeds down all on its own. And the next level of where I'm at is trying to figure out ways to suppress weeds where you might be having challenges. For me, it's going to be my flower beds, my tree beds, a little bit of the sidewalk strips, my driveway, which is a paver driveway, and then I have a rear patio, which is also pavers. And so with these areas, I tend to have more weed pressure. So I'm going to do this mainly for those areas, but while I'm at it, I'm going to apply the pre-emergent on my lawn as well. Why not? But I can tell you, before I even really bothered with putting pre-emergents on my lawn, I would address weeds in my lawn with a post-emergent spray. And it's going to be the Roundup for lawns. And that is a post-emergent weed killer that will take care of any weeds, and you can spot treat those. And I can tell you literally, guys, when I do it that way, because of the health of my lawn, I am spot treating maybe 20 to 30 weeds for the year. So I'll go out, maybe I'll see some thistle, or I'll see clover, or I'll see spurge, which, by the way, spurge is one of the things that prodiamine is very weak at controlling for a pre-emergent. So I do have a post-emergent spray that I use for that. I know there are some other pre-emergent sprays for spurge that I might get into later, but right now I'm trying to just take care of more of the broad spectrum of weed prevention for the pre-emergent at this time. But as it relates, guys, if you are just getting into this and you are trying to establish a healthier lawn, focus more on that than you would pre-emergent. And then if you have a heavy weed pressure, work on maybe a broadcast spray using a hose end sprayer to spray a weed begone product or something like that, and really focus on improving the health of your lawn to suppress and control weeds all on its own, and then maybe look into a pre-emergent. So in this episode, guys, hold on 1 minute. Guys, one of the main reasons that I shot this video was because once you've determined if you're going to apply pre-emergent, then the next question should be is, when would you apply pre-emergent? And I had done a lot of research trying to understand timing. Of course, a lot of you are probably familiar with the blooming up of forsythia, and there's some other natural indicators that you can use, soil temperature, of course. But one of the things that I was noticing when because I was obsessively monitoring air temperatures, soil temperatures, trying to get a good feel as far as how that soil temperature progressed as the temperature started to warm up. And one of the things that I realized is that air temperatures will be on a roller coaster, right? Like, especially here, man, we had snow a few nights ago, and here we are in early April. So looking at the soil temperatures relative to the air temperatures, of course, the soil temperatures are much more linear. They're going to have more of a flatter response because they're not as affected by the air temperature as much. Now, you still want to keep an eye on your soil temperatures to understand when you should apply products and understand the future of the forecast when you're putting down products as well, especially when you're talking about pre-emergent and some other products. But one of the things that I was theorizing about was the soil temperature and how it basically collects solar energy or collects heat, right? So as time goes on and we get more and more consecutive warmer days, of course, that's going to warm up the soil. But I started thinking there's got to be something out there that tracks this kind of stuff. And lo and behold, there is. there is something called a GDD model, and that stands for growing degree days. And it's something that's been used by agronomists, turf managers, golf course managers, the whole nine, as far as timing for certain products so that you can be more efficient with the use of your products for whatever you're treating for, whether that's for weeds, insects, fungus. There's a whole list of things that are part of this GDD model. And as much as it pains me to admit, because I am a Buckeye, I'm in Ohio, the best GDD map that I found out there that does a really good job at tracking this stuff is with Michigan State University. I'm going to leave a link in the description below, but here's a map of the GDD model and what it looks like online. But it is a super cool thing. I had never seen anybody talking about this. And guys, I just want you to see this because this is something that you can use no matter where you are in the country. You can understand when the timing is for certain things. The primary thing that I use it for is crabgrass pre-emergent, but there's going to be other things on there. Check it out. I highly recommend that you see if it can work for you. However, keep in mind, and it took me a little while to get used to this and understand, there's different bases that you have to make sure that you're following. So it has a base 22, a base 32, a base 50. So there's different bases that you're going to have to pay attention to as far as when you're going to apply certain products. If you've got any questions or if you want me to maybe do a video on that to kind of share what I've learned about it so far, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. But that is really helpful just for you to understand when to apply products. All right, back to the video. Guys, my pre-emergent application is going to be on the front yard, the side yards, and the sidewalk strips. I'm not going to do the backyard because there is heavy snow mold damage in the backyard, and I want to try to keep that from any sort of pre-emergent in the event that I decide that I want to overseed later on this spring. It's coming along really well. I'm happy to report that my lawn is recovering from the snow mold pretty well. But that is yet to be determined. I'll keep you posted. I'm capturing all the footage for the snow mold renovation to see how my lawn recovers. And that will be in another episode, and I'll cover what I am learning about snow mold in your lawn. So guys, when you are prepping for pre-emergent treatment, I think it's a good idea to keep your pre-emergent and your fertilizer separate. I think that's going to be more in your best interest if you are going to apply a pre-emergent. And again, you can use prodiamine, which I'm using a 64 WDG. That's a wettable, dissolvable granule, and that is a product that is designed to be dissolved in water. And so I'm going to dissolve that. First, I'll weigh it out. For my lawn, I am putting it down at 0.37 ounces per 1,000 square feet. I have a 4,600 square foot lawn, so that's going to equate at roughly 1.7 ounces for the treatment of my lawn. So what I'll do is I'm going to take the prodiamine, I'm going to weigh it out on my scale at 1.7 ounces, and then I'm going to dissolve that down in a separate container where the water is a little bit warm, it's lukewarm, and that helps dissolve the product a little easier. And then I will add that to my backpack sprayer, fill the backpack sprayer up first with about 50% water. Then I add the prodiamine that is mixed into the backpack sprayer, and then I fill up the rest of that backpack sprayer so that I can apply that to my lawn. So one big thing about pre-emergent, guys, is that it's ideal to water this in soon after you have applied the pre-emergent. So before we apply this onto the lawn, we want to make sure that we have the right tip on the backpack sprayer. For a majority of the things that I apply to my lawn, I'll use a double cone sprayer. And this is a mist sprayer. So this is more for a foliar application that is designed to actually put the product on the blades of the grass. In this application, however, we are not trying to get this on the grass. This is more for the soil. We want to treat the soil with the pre-emergent because that is where we want to put the pre-emergent barrier for this product. So by doing that, we need to change the tip on the backpack sprayer. And in this case, I'm going to use a brass tip, which has a larger droplet size, and the idea is that that droplet size will make its way past the grass blade and down closer to the soil level. But after this is applied, it's still a spray, so you still should water this in. Challenge with me is that my irrigation system is not on yet, so I had to time this to take place before a rain. And lo and behold, about 10 hours after applying the product, it rained. and it rained pretty well. It wasn't a really heavy rain, but it was enough to get the prodiamine down to the soil level so that it could actually create the barrier on the soil and be properly watered in. You want to make sure that you're watering in your product. And so that was perfect timing with the rain. The next step that I have is to actually do my beds, because I had mulch that was being delivered. I had 3 yards of mulch that I put down throughout the tree beds and the flower beds. And so we wanted to get the prodiamine sprayed into there as well. So I went back on another day that again was just before a rain, and I managed to get down the prodiamine on my tree beds and on my flower beds before the mulch went down. So Mother Nature was on my side this year as far as getting the rain in to create a good pre-emergent barrier before I put my mulch down. And unfortunately, I haven't really been able to do anything else other than before my mulch came in, I rejuvenated my live edges on my tree beds, which I'm going to put in another video. So be sure to tune in for that. But until then, take care, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.